In the moment, it just felt like, what? Like, is this fun for him? Is this like a test? This is the first time that I'm speaking about it. It's something that I'll never forget.
Let's dive into one of the most jaw-dropping celebrity mysteries of recent times: the swirling rumors, shocking allegations, and wild conspiracy theories surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. Once celebrated as a hip-hop icon and business mogul, Diddy now finds himself at the center of a whirlwind of scandal and intrigue. But here's the real kicker. What if the true reason he's been denied bail over and over isn't just about protecting witnesses or concerns over public safety? What if, beneath the surface, authorities uncovered a secret escape plan just in time? Buckle up, because this story is packed with twists, turns, and jaw-dropping revelations.
The flight was always going to be a tough argument for the government because obviously Combs voluntarily came to New York. He surrendered his passports through his lawyer. He could have fled after the March raids of his Miami and Los Angeles homes, but he didn't. He has access to 2 private jets. I think it was a tougher argument. I know the government made the argument, but clearly the best argument was the dangerousness and the witness tampering. They had much more evidence.
Now, let's set the stage. Sean Combs, a man who once graced red carpets in tailored suits and hosted legendary white-themed parties, has been sitting in a federal detention center for months. Despite offering a staggering $50 million as part of his bail package, the courts have rejected him at every turn. $50 million. Let that sink in. For someone of his stature, that's a colossal gesture, practically screaming, "I'm not going anywhere." And yet, here we are, with the court slamming the door in his face every single time. Why?
Legitimate concern. No judge wants to wake up and read the headlines the next day. Oh, they treated this guy special and they gave him bond, and now he's gone and he fled from justice. So that's what's in the back of most judges' minds. On the other hand, we deal with cases where clients have significant funds sometimes. And sometimes where there's money, you can craft a unique solution. Years ago, it was the ankle bracelet and the ankle monitor.
According to multiple sources, and let's be real, the ever-turning rumor mill, there's more to this story than meets the eye. Diddy's legal team has repeatedly argued that he's not a flight risk, proposing everything from house arrest in a luxurious Manhattan apartment to 24/7 private security monitoring. But the courts aren't buying it. Officially, his bail denials stem from concerns over his alleged influence, the risk of witness tampering, and his supposed inability to follow rules, even behind bars. But unofficially? Oh, the whispers are deafening. There's talk of a top-secret escape plan involving some of Diddy's closest confidants, and even family members. Yes, you heard that right. His own family.
With all the money he has and all the resources he has, they couldn't craft some solution that lets him be under some form of house arrest. And again, it sounds like special treatment, but the truth of the matter is, to incarcerate somebody like him is expensive to all of us. We're taxpayers, and he's got to have unique situations. You can't put him in general population where, everyone wants a piece of him and everyone wants to be his friend and everyone. So
let's rewind a bit. After his arrest, Diddy's behavior in custody reportedly raised several red flags. Take, for example, the accusations that he was using other inmates' phone codes to make calls. Authorities claim these weren't just casual conversations. They were allegedly attempts to reach out to witnesses and possibly orchestrate something bigger. And then there's the infamous "Contact Me ASAP" messaging service, which authorities say Diddy continued to use, even after promising the court he wouldn't on the surface. These might seem like minor infractions, but together, they painted a picture of someone who wasn't playing by the rules. Was it just defiance? Or was something far more calculated at play?
Well, Sierra, anything's possible, right? But now this judge has an even harder time, I think, because the past judge locked him up, didn't let him out, and he's still there available for trial. If the new judge lets him out on bond and something goes wrong, and this isn't the analysis that I'm proud to make, right? We shouldn't be saying, well, judges are worried about their own skin and how they look if something bad happens.
Now, here's where things get spicier. According to sources close to the investigation, the FBI allegedly intercepted communications suggesting that Diddy's team, yes, that includes family and longtime associates, was working behind the scenes on a plan to spring him from custody. The alleged scheme reportedly involved multiple locations, a network of safe houses, and even international connections. Let's not forget, this is Sean Combs we're talking about. A man with a Rolodex that could rival some governments. If anyone could pull off an elaborate escape, it's someone with his resources and influence.
Try everything. They're going to try to transfer him. They're going to try to get him out. You know, in a normal case where it's a high-profile person or a well-funded person, the prosecution and the judge is a little bit more concerned about a wrongful prosecution, because people that are mad that they're being arrested for a crime they didn't commit can turn around and file for malicious prosecution.
But how did authorities catch wind of this alleged plot? Well, insiders claim it was a combination of surveillance, intercepted messages, and, you guessed it, a potential mole within Diddy's inner circle. Imagine the tension. Someone close enough to know the details of an escape plan spilling the beans to the authorities. If true, this would explain why the courts have been so firm in their stance against bail. After all, if the FBI believed there was even a shred of truth to these allegations, letting him out, no matter the price tag, would be a monumental risk.
Every jail is bad, and some jails are worse than others. And the problem, again, is if you move him, why is he getting special treatment? And maybe he's earned special treatment. Maybe what he's done, maybe he's given so much back to his fans and to the world and to charity that maybe there's a way that it plays out in the end. But again, to go into court and say this jail is bad, move him to another jail, is not your first argument. That's sort of the...
The alleged plan wasn't just about sneaking out of the detention center. Oh no. This was reportedly a full-scale operation. Sources suggest it involved private jets, decoy vehicles, and an underground network designed to get him to a location where extradition would be nearly impossible. Some even claim that certain family members were allegedly tasked with coordinating logistics, while others were supposedly prepared to provide financial support. Whether true or not, the sheer audacity of such a plan has left people reeling.
They can't move him to general population. And would he be at risk? Sure, he'd be at risk. There's so many people that have nothing to lose, right? They're going to be in jail the rest of their life. They've got nothing to... They want their 15 minutes of fame. They were friends with Diddy, or they hurt Diddy, or they Diddy, or they did... I mean, there's so many, people in jail that this would be their moment. You can't put them there. Plus...
And let's not overlook the timing of all this. Around the same time these rumors started swirling, Diddy's legal team was aggressively pushing for his release under house arrest. Coincidence? Some think not. Critics have speculated that the house arrest request could have been a strategic move, making the alleged escape easier. Think about it, a luxurious Upper East Side apartment, equipped with security measures that Diddy himself would have a hand in arranging. Could such a setup serve as the perfect launching pad for a getaway? It's a theory that's been made.
But no one wants to be in prison. And you can imagine what happens when you take sort of 40 people, all of whom have been at least charged with crimes, and lock them in a single room for years on end and throw out the key, which is the most trivial things become all that people have left to care about.
But what's even more fascinating is the alleged role of Diddy's family in all this. Rumors suggest that the FBI is now looking closely at several of his relatives, examining their financial activities and communication records. The idea that his own loved ones could be implicated in such a high-stakes operation has sent shockwaves through both the entertainment world and the public. If these allegations hold any weight, it's not just Diddy who could face charges. His entire family could find themselves in legal hot water. Imagine the ripple effects of such a scenario. The very people who've stood by him through thick and thin could now be...
What's Diddy like?
Obviously I've only seen one piece of him, which is, Diddy in prison. And, he's been kind to people in the unit. He's been kind to me. It's a position no one wants to be in. Obviously he doesn't, I don't, as you said, it's kind of a soul-crushing place for the world in general.
But let's not forget the role of the FBI in this saga. If the rumors of an uncovered escape plan are true, it would mark yet another high-profile victory for the agency. And let's be honest, they're not exactly known for keeping things under wraps when they score a win. The mere suggestion that they thwarted a celebrity's grand escape attempt adds another layer of drama to an already explosive case. It's the kind of story that would dominate headlines for weeks, if not months.
What we see are just the people that are around us on the inside, rather than who we are on the outside.
What we see is just the people around us on the inside, rather than who we truly are on the outside. What's also intriguing is how these rumors have shifted public perception. While some fans remain staunchly in Diddy's corner, insisting he's being unfairly targeted, others have begun to question everything they thought they knew about him. After all, if even a fraction of these allegations is true, it paints a picture of a man willing to go to extraordinary lengths to avoid facing the music. Whether you see him as a victim of a flawed justice system or a mastermind trying to outweed the law, one thing is certain. The narrative surrounding Sean Combs is changed forever. As the story unfolds, the unanswered questions keep piling up. What exactly did the FBI uncover? How deep does this alleged conspiracy go? And perhaps
some of them are, I think, are thinking like, wow, this is sort of a big opportunity, like, to meet people they wouldn't otherwise get to meet, which is, it shocked me the first time I heard that. Right, it makes sense from their perspective, but like, boy, is that not how I think about prison.
And speaking of waiting, let's not forget where Diddy is spending his days while all this drama unfolds. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn isn't exactly known for its hospitality. How is a man who once lived in luxurious mansions adapting to life in what some have called hell on earth? And could these grim conditions be part of a larger strategy to pressure him into cooperating? Stay with us, because the next part of this story takes you deep inside the walls of the detention center that Sean Diddy Combs now calls home. Sean Diddy Combs, a man who once sailed on private yachts at sunset and dominated VIP sections at global hotspots, now wakes up to the cold, relentless hum of fluorescent lights in an 8x10 cell. It's a jarring image, isn't it? The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is no five-star retreat, and for someone like Diddy, the contrast couldn't be sharper. But what if the conditions he's enduring aren't just a reflection of the flawed prison system? What if they are part of a calculated strategy by authorities, designed to break him down, to push him to the point where he might consider striking a deal, intentional or not? The situation Diddy find himself in is a far cry from the life he once lived, and it's become a story in itself. Let's dive.
That's where Diddy has been for months now, but last week he was taken to the hospital. According to reports from the New York Post, Diddy was transported from MDC in the cover of darkness at about 10 p.m. on January 30th. He was taken to a Brooklyn hospital for an MRI after reporting issues with his knee.
From the moment Diddy entered the Metropolitan Detention Center, his reality shifted into something entirely at odds with the life he's known for decades. Imagine waking up each morning on a steel bed, the so-called mattress barely thicker than a magazine, and silk sheets. No designer robes. Just the harsh, unyielding reality of prison-issued garb. His 8x10-foot cell offers no solace. The walls, cold and stark white, reflect nothing but confinement. And let's not forget, there isn't even a pillow. Think about that. A man who once chartered private islands now has to sleep without the simplest
So apparently Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a Brooklyn.
But the Metropolitan Detention Center is infamous for far more than just its lack of luxuries. Over the years, it has earned a reputation as one of the most chaotic and under-resourced facilities in the system. Critics, and there are many, have described it as a place plagued by overcrowding, rampant violence, and minimal access to basic necessities. One former inmate famously called it hell on earth. And that's putting it lightly, for someone like Diddy, who has lived so publicly and unapologetically large.
So again, after that initial review of his current medical situation during his physical, and then there's follow-up to that process if there's something found, immediately. But, you have to understand, daily there are medical staff walking through the units, doing what we call sit call and asking inmates, are they okay? And then you have folks that are walking around.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Diddy isn't your average inmate. He's a cultural icon, a name recognized across the globe, and yet that fame doesn't shield him from the harsh realities of the facility. In fact, it might even make things harder. Reports suggest that he's being housed in a special unit at the detention center, designed to separate high-profile detainees from the general population. On the surface, that might sound like a safer bet, but the isolation comes with its own set of challenges. Imagine being confined to an even more restricted space, with minimal interaction and little to no respite from the monotony. If the regular sections of the prison are tough, This special housing...
Well, I mean, inmates have procedures all the time. I mean, you have folks there with cancer, you have folks there with, serious other chronic diseases. And sometimes it does require individuals to have surgery even while they're on pretrial status.
Adding to the intrigue are Diddy's alleged interactions with other high-profile inmates. Take Sam Bankman-Fried, the disgraced cryptocurrency mogul who's also been held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. In a surprisingly candid interview, Bankman-Fried described Diddy as kind and approachable, even within the grim confines of the facility. "He's always been kind to me," Bankman-Fried shared, painting a picture of a man who, despite his circumstances, is still trying to maintain a semblance of his old persona. But let's not mistake kindness for contentment behind the scenes.
I've had a lot of time to reflect on how to communicate. And in retrospect, I think I was not effective at communicating, especially when the crisis first hit. And, in the months thereafter, I made a mistake I often make. I get swept up in details and forget to communicate the bigger picture.
And those realities aren't just physical. The mental toll of incarceration, especially in a place like the Metropolitan Detention Center, is immense. Some speculate that the authorities might be counting on this. After all, a man like Diddy, who's used to being in control, might find the lack of autonomy and the relentless monotony particularly grueling. Could this be part of a larger strategy? Imagine the pressure mounting as each day slowly drags on in confinement. The authorities know that time.
Understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on watch.
But let's dig deeper into the conditions themselves. The Metropolitan Detention Center has been a lightning rod for criticism for years, and not without reason. Inmates have reported everything from unsanitary living spaces to frequent lockdowns that leave them confined to their cells for extended periods. And then there's the food, or, as some have described it, barely edible slop. It's been said that maggot-infested meals are not unheard of. Now, imagine someone like Diddy, who's likely accustomed to freshly prepared gourmet dishes, being served something he wouldn't have touched in a million years on the outside. It's the kind of detail that underscores just how far he's fallen, or, depending on your perspective, how far he's been brought down. And let's not overlook the incidents of violence that have plagued the facility. In just the past couple of years, reports have surfaced of stabbings, brawls, and even fatalities within the prison walls, while Diddy is reportedly in a more secure section. The tension and fear that permeate the environment are impossible to escape. Every day in a place like this is a mental and emotional challenge, and for someone of Diddy's stature, the stakes feel even higher. After all, how does a man who's built his entire identity on power and control navigate a world where he is none? But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Diddy's incarceration is his access, or lack thereof, to his legal team. Preparing for a trial of this magnitude requires resources, strategy, and most importantly, time. Yet reports suggest that the restrictive conditions at the detention center are making it nearly impossible for Diddy to work effectively with his lawyers. While he's been granted access to a laptop preloaded with case materials, the limitations on how and when he can use it are...
Some people do think that Diddy can help him, but this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey because he doesn't like MDC. He's a Marshals inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth, I don't know, several times a week.
The authorities argue that these restrictions are necessary to prevent witness tampering and other potential misconduct. But critics have pointed out that these measures also make it exceedingly difficult for Diddy to adequately prepare his defense. It's a fine line between ensuring justice and tipping the scales. And in this case, it's hard not to wonder whether the balance has been skewed. And then there's the broader question. What does all of this mean for Diddy's future? The trial is still months away, and the road ahead is anything but clear. Will the mounting pressure of his confinement push him to strike a deal, Or will he dig in his heels and fight to clear his name, no matter the cost? Either way,
it's a question of that. But when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witnesses.
As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, one thing is certain. The world is watching. Whether you see Diddy as a victim of circumstance or a man finally being held accountable, his story is far from over. The detention center may be his current reality, but the battle for his future is just beginning. And as the trial date inches closer, the questions only multiply. Will he emerge from this ordeal a changed man? Or will this be the end of an era? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. This is a story no one can look away from. As the saga of Sean Diddy Combs continues to unfold, the world is left with a whirlwind of questions and speculation. Could the authorities' refusal to grant bail really be tied to an elaborate escape plan? Or is there more to the story than meets the eye? And what about Diddy's family? Are they unwitting pawns or active participants in this high-stakes drama? The lines between fact and fiction continue to blur, leaving us all to wonder, just how far will Diddy go to regain his freedom? Now it's your turn. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Is Diddy a mastermind trying to outweed the law? Or is he a victim of a flawed justice system?